we took a trip out to the press and
To BJU Press.
to BJU Press. Yes. By the end of the tour, the president of the press at that point came out, and I had literally tears rolling down my cheek because I felt so loved and so impressed with how they spent the time to help this young homeschool mom who was a little afraid of stepping into this journey and wanted to make sure she wasn't keeping her kids from something that they needed, wanted to make sure I was giving everything that I could possibly give to my child's education. But I had tears rolling down my face, and I reached up and shook the president at the time, his hand, and I said, "Thank you so much for allowing her to step away from her post to spend time with us. You have got a customer for the life of our children's education."
Hi, welcome to the Zan Tyler podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Zan Tyler podcast, where our goal is to help you thrive in your homeschool journey. Let me take just a minute to ask you to please subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen or watch, including YouTube. If this podcast has been encouraging to you, please leave us a good review. Each review really helps. And be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. I am so excited to welcome my dear friend and colleague, Eujeana Chism, to the podcast today. Eujeana homeschooled her 4 children for over 21 years. Her homeschool experience provided an abundance of family time and fostered wonderful life skills in her children, from homeschooling on the road to homeschooling while starting a new business with her husband to homeschooling while caring for her aging grandmother. Eujeana shares her personal story of how BJU Press homeschool curriculum and videos came alongside her and assisted her as she taught her children. So she served as a Homeworks by Precept consultant for 13 years and currently serves as manager, trainer, and customer and consultant development since 2017. Eujeana, thank you so much for being with us today. This podcast is brought to you by BJU Press Homeschool. Homeschooling is an exciting adventure we take with our children. One of the most challenging parts of this journey is choosing the curriculum you want to use. BJU Press Homeschool is a curriculum you can trust. All the books, resources, and videos have been designed with you and your child in mind. Their curriculum is educationally robust and rich, taking into account that children have different learning styles, strengths, and needs. Mom, you are in charge. BJU Press Homeschool is here to come alongside and support you. Do you need help with the teaching load, or is there a subject you just don't want to teach? Their amazing video courses are available for all grades and almost every subject. BJU Press Homeschool believes that homeschooling can produce a new generation of students who know God, love their neighbors, and stand firm in their faith. For more information, go to bjupresshomeschool.com. That's bjupresshomeschool.com. Well, we have had so many good times since we have been homeschooling and working together. So it's just so much fun to have you on the podcast. So I want people to get to know you the way I know you. So tell us how you started homeschooling and a little bit about your homeschooling journey.
Oh, it seems like it was so long ago now when we started homeschooling. This is something that my husband and I discussed before we were even married. We discussed the possibilities and the probabilities of homeschooling, and it's just something that I always wanted to do. I moved around a lot as a child, and my dad was in construction. We moved from state to state, and I just wanted consistency for my kids. They always say you'll marry someone just like your father, and I did marry a man who traveled a lot, and I wanted to be able to go with him and keep that family bond together. So we made our home base here in Tennessee, and we traveled through 38 of the states while we were homeschooling with my husband on business adventures and just vacations and different things. So that is one of the reasons that we chose to homeschool, is we just wanted consistency for our children.
So you homeschooled for over 20 years. When do you remember the year you graduated your last child?
Oh goodness, I knew you were going to ask that. I think
You
I
don't have to
believe
answer
I
that.
believe I'd have to check with my daughter, but I believe it was 2014.
Oh,
Facebook reminds me every once in a while, when that graduation was, and I go, "Oh, it's been that many years already." But
And and and
2014.
now you have grandchildren that
I
are being
do.
homeschooled, and you help with that process as well.
I do. I have 7 grandchildren, so
Oh, well, that
it's
is amazing. Okay, so you started homeschooling for those reasons you just gave. What caused you to continue homeschooling for all those many years?
well, we always said we'd do 1 year at a time and see where the Lord led us, each year. We would commit to 1 year every year, and the Lord continued to allow us to continue homeschooling, and we wanted to see our children grounded in our faith, and we wanted to see our children, succeed in life. It was working for us, and it allowed us the flexibility that we needed to be able to be a family and to have that family unit intact. And so, for those reasons, we continue to homeschool all the way through. We made it all the way through. Now, did I teach chemistry? Absolutely not. There are videos for that. So, and one of the colleges asked, "How did you get your chemistry?" And I was more than happy to share a link, that Bill Harmon taught our chemistry. And then we had another homeschool dad that I sent all my lab kit stuff to them, and they did labs. We kinda, bartered, I guess. I tutored the math, and they did the labs for us once a month. So, there's ways to get it done. That's all
Uh,
I'm saying.
so I know that every day you homeschooled was just happy and rainbows, right?
Oh my goodness, absolutely not. I do a session if anyone's ever been to a convention that I'm at, I do a session called Managing Interruptions in Your Homeschool Day, because 'cause I've had plenty over the years. We've had business adventures that have we've tried to get started and they failed, and then you feel like a failure because you didn't do everything you wanted to with your children, and we've had illnesses in the family that we've taken care of over the years, and I'm just really thankful that I had some substitute teachers, basically at my fingertips to be able to help me through those rough times.
Okay, okay, wait a minute, hold on. So, a homeschool mom hears the word substitute teacher and they
Mhm.
go, "Whoa, I need that."
I had a whole faculty, and I was so thrilled,
Okay.
but I was still in control, so that
Yeah, so tell us about your substitute teachers. Who were your and
was
sometimes a primary teacher for a course or 2, not a
that's
substitute.
that's right. That's right, exactly. So, um, of course, through our BJU Press materials, there are video courses, and those teachers, I came to start using those materials for basically for science and history. I was using all the materials parent-led, but, when the video courses started many, many years ago, I won't age myself totally, but I pulled in the science and the history to help me teach those courses, and then I
Okay.
realized.
All right, so I'm gonna stop and ask you questions
Mhm,
along the way.
sure.
When you say parent-led, what do you mean by that versus not? Because I think of all homeschooling as being
That's
parent-led. So
true, that's true,
explain that to the moms and dads who are
right,
listening.
we've had discussions about
Mhm.
that. So, when I say parent-led, I'm saying I get the teacher's edition, I do the lesson plans, and I present the material. So that's what I mean by parent-led. But when I have a substitute teacher or a video course teacher, then they're doing the actual presentation of the lesson, not me, and I'm just tutoring or assisting, facilitating, so to speak. So, I pulled that teacher presentation in for the science and the history, and then I wowed and went, "Wait a minute. I'm teaching in the same curriculum all year with my children, and these interruptions are interrupting our day when I'm actually doing the teaching. So, what can I do?" And then I decided I'm gonna get the whole package because I can teach chapter 1, but then I can have the teacher present the next chapter for me if I've got an illness that I need to take care of. Maybe one of the kids is sick and I need to take care of them, but school must go on or needs to go on for the other children. I can pull that teacher off the shelf, so to speak, or through the computer and have them teach those lessons and present those lessons for me. I also found that they were also helpful in a chapter that I might not understand totally how to present the lesson. My child's not getting it. Their learning style is a little different. So I might listen to the teacher myself the night before I was going to present the lesson to see how to present that certain concept.
Oh,
Um,
that's interesting. So
so
you've used the BJU Press videos in a number of different ways. So
exactly.
you've used it, like with chemistry, to teach the whole class.
Correct.
You've used it in other courses where you would teach some days and let the video teacher teach some days. And then you've also used the videos as a way for you to learn from the teacher if you wanted to present the material yourself.
That is correct. That's
Wow, that's
correct.
pretty cool.
Mm.
So, did you use the videos from 1st grade through 12th grade, or were they available to you then, or what did you do?
Well, my oldest, we started with him in 3rd grade. That's about the time they came out. Again,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna age myself here. So as soon as they were available, we started using them, then found that they were such a great resource and a great tool for us, in our homeschool journey. So my youngest got the benefit of more probably than the oldest. There's a 6-year span there, but, uh, I just I couldn't have done it. I feel like I couldn't have done it without them. Could I have? Probably, but, in the elementary years, Zan, there's 32 subjects between 4 kids, 32 different if you keep them all on their own level, there's 32 subjects to teach in a day. That's overwhelming. So having that help and that assistance is fantastic. I did spend, a week one time with, my 2 youngest both had pneumonia. And so one was in the hospital and one was in my mother's arms, and I was going back and forth to the hospital, but school went on for my 2 boys who weren't affected by that pneumonia. So, thankful for the help that I've had over the years.
So I know that you have been very involved in your children's lives from the time they were born into their adult lives and loving your grandchildren so well. So how did you come to the conclusion that using the videos would help you rather than take you out of the education equation too much with your children? Because I know some people are hesitant to use videos because they don't want a video teacher to replace them in homeschooling, if you know what I'm asking.
Yeah, I think I know what you're asking. We were still very much a homeschool family. I was still very much in charge. The videos are just a tool, one tool that we used to educate our children. So while one's watching a video, I'm actually teaching another one, or I'm able to do the laundry that I have to do. I'm the man. I was the manager of the home. I still had to cook and clean and taxi service and nursemaid and all of those things. So it was just a tool that helped me succeed in our home to keep the home fires burning, so to speak, to keep us moving so that when my husband came home from work or came in from work, he works sometimes from home, um, we could actually have our family time because we had a schedule. We had things that kept us going during our school day, and we had relaxed time. The schedule is just a tool to get to a routine, to keep the day going. So, we weren't staunch on a schedule. We weren't, you know, um, so rigid that we had to keep to the schedule, so to speak, but, it just helped us to keep things moving.
So tell me how you began using BJU Press curriculum because I think you used it from the beginning of your children's education through high school.
I did. We started with it. My husband actually wanted to use BJU Press, very badly, and I did not. I'll just say that right up front. I didn't want to. I was a student in some of the material, and, I just thought it was more black and white, which it wasn't, and I learned my lesson after we did some investigating out there and had some disappointments, in our investigation, and I won't go into all those details, but we took a trip out to the press, and
To BJU Press.
to BJU
Okay.
Press.
Mhm,
Yes,
mhm.
we went out to Greenville. My husband made arrangements to take us out that way, and we were visiting some friends, and her daughter went with us to the BJU Press. I had coordinated with a CSR, or I think they
Customer
CS
customer
customer
service
service.
represent
Yep,
mhm.
yep, a CSR, and I had called her and said, "Hey, I'd really like to come and see what we're getting into to make sure this is a good fit for our family." And I didn't tell her about any bad experiences that I'd had other places or anything. I just said, "This is what we wanna do, and I wanna see it all." So, she said, "Well, you let me know when you're here, and I'll meet up with you." So we got to the gate at the university, and the university called over to BJU Press, let her know we were there. She treated our whole family and my friends to, lunch in the staff dining commons over there at the university, and then she took us on a complete tour. We got there about 11:30. She took us on a complete tour of the university. We got to watch some, um, movies or presentation about the university. We got to see where some of the films were made, and then she took us on a tour of the press, and we got to see the books being created and made, and the artwork and the folks that did the artwork within the books, and the authors who are putting, the resources and pulling all the resources. We got to see everything. And she spent from 11 o'clock until 5:30 that day with us. A
Okay, so
long
alright,
time.
so I wanna back up on this a little bit because you were just a young mom. It's
Exactly.
not like you were working for BJU Press at that
No,
point in time.
no.
You had, gone and visited other publishers,
Uh-huh.
and you were there just trying to do your diligence and finding out what would work best for your children,
Right.
and so it's so amazing that they rolled out the red carpet to you like that because I mean, this is no bad reflection on you, but you weren't an
No,
important
well,
person in the
no.
homeschooling
I
community.
didn't I did I had some friends that graduated from the university out there, but I had never really been there, um, other than a graduation, and we wanted to lock in because, I said earlier that I moved from place to place as a child, and every time we moved, I was put in another school, and so that was a change in curriculum, then there were gaps in my own education, and I wanted to lock in. I didn't wanna look back. I wanted consistency for my kids. And so when we got there and she rolled out the red carpet for us, I mean, and I don't know that this is something they always did. It was just something I requested. I wanted to see what we were gonna be getting into. By the end of the tour, the president of the press at that point came out, and I had literally tears rolling down my cheek because I felt so loved and so impressed with how they spent the time to help this young homeschool mom who was a little afraid of stepping into this journey and wanted to make sure she wasn't, keeping her kids from something that they needed, wanted to make sure I was giving everything that I could possibly give to my child's education. But I had tears rolling down my face, and I reached up and shook the president at the time, his hand, and I said, "Thank you so much for allowing her to step away from her post to spend time with us. You have got a customer for the life of our children's education." I may not, agree or love every single thing, as a homeschool mom, because we all have different personalities, but I had faith in the fact that they were gonna help me, and they were gonna be there for me, through those years, and we never looked back. From that point on, we stopped going to conventions, and we just did not look back. We had a wonderful trip and I stayed in touch with that CSR, that customer service rep through the years, sent her pictures the old-fashioned way. Again, I'm 80 plus,
Right.
um, but we stayed in touch through the years. Um
Well, when we started homeschooling, we couldn't find a publisher that would now started homeschooling probably 10 or 12 years before you. We couldn't find anybody who would sell to us in terms of any type of help along with teacher help along with the curriculum, which I needed at that point in time. And so I will say that as a company, BJU Press has always had a welcoming attitude toward homeschoolers, and that was not common in the 80s and even in the early 90s, I don't think. And so I think that's important when you're looking for a curriculum company is do they have a history of supporting homeschoolers and in their lives. So I know that you had several instances where you were caring for sick people, like your grandmother, as she was passing away, and you were homeschooling too. I want to talk about that for just a minute, Eujeana, because you talk about distractions. Of course, when you have a so let me frame this correctly. When you have a parent or a grandparent that you're caring for, that is not a distraction. I believe that is a calling from God, but it does distract you from the daily work of homeschooling. And so tell us a little bit about that period in your lives when you were a caregiver for your grandmama, what it did for your children, and how you handled the teaching.
Sure. Well, what happened was is my grandmother came to live with my mom, actually, and my mom is about 20 minutes on the other side of town from where we live. And so my mom and my father were still working. So they were having to get caregivers to come in and basically sit with my grandmother because she was dementia and Alzheimer's and had some other ailments. And so, I was the one that was able to quickly get over there if there was an issue, and I took every Friday and sometimes some other days of the week. I'd pack the kids up, their backpacks, we'd put all the books in, and we'd get the videos, and we'd take them with us, and that was the day that the teachers taught whatever lesson we were on, any of those subjects that I was teaching and presenting the lesson, they would get to watch the teacher, that day, and some my youngest was always excited because she got to watch Miss Walker, so that was a blessing for her. Everybody loves Mrs. Walker. But anyway, so what we would do is I would go over there and I would, care for my grandmother, do whatever she needed done, help her get her meds, and take care of whatever list my mom had for me. Sometimes it was just sitting with her for the day, making sure she ate, making sure she took her meds. And I would sit with her on the couch, and sometimes I'd walk in and she'd sit up because she was able to. She'd sit up on the couch and she'd say, Gina, I don't wanna go to school today, and I say, "It's okay, you can take a nap, it's fine. The kids are gonna get set up," and I always had the youngest in the room with her, and, then other days she'd say, "Are we going to school today?" She'd see me coming in, she said, "I can't wait to watch that lady again," and then we'd pause the program, and my kids would read to her, from their readers or from their history book or their science book, and they'd sit next to her and cuddle up. And there was one day in particular, she'd lean her head on my shoulder and she'd say, Gina, I hate it that your mom has to take care of me in this state. And she was there for that very moment. And I had like 2 minutes that I could actually talk to her and glean from her wisdom
Mm.
and knowledge. This was a lady that I talked to weekly, if not daily, when she was not sick. She was just my first person to call, and I loved my grandmother, so I loved being able to take care of her, and that homeschooling afforded me the ability to be in those last months of her life. Now, my kids, you asked about my kids and how they gleaned from that. They saw how we cared for my grandmother, and they learned so much more than I ever knew that they learned. And you're asking me to go into some emotional
Yeah,
territory, I
right.
think, so
Yes.
bear with me as I try to get through this, but in the, um, probably the last, I'm just gonna go 10 years, my husband got sick. They were older, my kids had already graduated, they'd actually already married, and he got sick, very sick. And I had to go into that caregiving mode in my own home while working, um, from home, thankfully. And so as it progressed, the disease progressed, my kids behind the scenes automatically started talking to each other and said, Mom needs help. Mom needs our help. We got to put a schedule together. We got to be over there and help her. and they just automatically started coming without my prompting or my asking them to do,
Because they had seen you do that.
because they had
And
learned those
mhm,
skills back in the
mhm.
day, and I'm just so grateful. I had no idea how much they'd actually learned, back then, and what God was doing to prepare them for a really, really tough season in my life and their life. He passed away in 2021. He's better off, and we're very thankful that he's with the Lord and not in pain anymore. But it's tough. It's tough on me and it's tough on the kids, but they know how to. And that was a major interruption in our school back in the day. But that life skill that they learned for now, and my grandchildren saw how their parents jumped in and took care of. So we don't know what's coming down the pike, um, to that the kids are learning. So never never worry about those academics. Those life skills that they're learning during the tough times is just as important as the academics are, in my opinion.
Well, absolutely. And one of the things I really love about homeschooling, and even as a young mom, I really cherish the fact that it was generational and my children knew their grandparents and their great grandparents for many years, especially the older two boys. And so that was very generational. And then as our parents grew up and got ill, our kids' grandparents, they were really instrumental in some of the care, as were our grandkids, and
Mhm.
so it's it's such it's just such a homeschooling really fosters generational love and care, and I think that's a really important biblical concept and
Mm.
something that can be really missing in our lives in the 21st century.
You know,
Uh
I was, I was reading in scriptures yesterday, and I came across a verse, and I wrote it down for today, and it's just kinda meshing. Do you mind if I go ahead
Oh,
and share it?
heavens, no.
Okay. Well, Joel 1:3, it says, "Tell ye your children of it, and let your children tell their children, and their children another generation." And that just kinda, when you're teaching your children, then they teach their children, and then they teach their children. It's that next generation. We're just preparing each generation
Mhm.
for what comes to them, and I'm so thankful to be able to do that.
Oh boy, that is a sweet verse when you think about it. That's
Mhm.
amazing. So, tell us a little bit about even while your kids were home, you were working with a lot of homeschooling parents. How did that happen? What was your role when you were doing that?
Well, back in 2004, I had a lady, I was at a conference at BJU, BJU, the university, but it was a conference for homeschoolers. It was help conference. I
The
don't know
help
if you remember
conference.
that.
So,
Yeah,
I was there, so we didn't know each other
that's
then,
right.
but
We didn't. But if you remember up in the student union, they kind of had set up all the vendors.
yes,
And
yes, I was there with skates.
there was a lady there who was promoting, they had just started the program for becoming a consultant. Um, and this lady, I won't mention her
Now
name,
this is a
but
consultant with Homeworks by
right.
Precept,
She
okay.
she was she kinda spearheaded the program up there. Her husband still, works, for the company, and, she followed me around that hall and said, "You need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this." And I was like, I don't know if I have time with 4 kids," but I said, "Just give me the information, let me take it home, and let me pray about it, and talk with my husband about it." So that's exactly what I did. My husband looked at me, he said, "You're already doing it, you might as well jump
Get
in
paid for it.
yeah, get a little bit of help and be able to follow through." So that's what enticed me is I was already sending folks to the 800 number that I was coming in touch with in my community, as they were coming to me. One of my very first, workshops before I became a consultant, I had had several families come into my home. They're sitting in my living room. My youngest had just been born, and I had put her down for her evening rest period or nap, and I was trying to present and do a little workshop in my living room, and she woke up, and I just looked at her and I said, "Hold on, family first. I went and grabbed her out of her bed, and I just wrapped her in my arms and held her and continued my workshop as I was, rocking back and forth to get her to go back to sleep. So I was already doing it, and my husband saw that. So I went ahead and signed up to become a consultant, and I didn't do a whole lot with it, the first few years. Um, that was before Google. Here I go again, aging myself. So we didn't have the nice website and be able to do the entry, so I did everything that I did was all snail mail and fax. But I was able to follow through instead of just sending them through the 800 number. I could actually place the order and make sure they were, my friends and, people in my community who wanted to order were ordering the correct materials for what they were wanting. So it was a so that's how I kinda got started with, Homeworks and becoming a consultant, and I consulted for quite a while. I became a senior consultant in, I believe it was 2012 or 13. I led 2 different teams, grew those teams, and then back in 2017, they asked me to come on staff and help train consultants across the nation and help my fellow senior consultants.
Right. So, and in your role with Homeworks, you are teaching people how to use the BJU Press homeschool material.
That's correct.
And then but as a consultant so let me back up and say this, when I came on board with BJU Press Homeschool as a speaker and later, author and podcaster, I was shocked by the consultant program. I called it the best kept secret in homeschooling circles. So I got to over the years, over the 6 or 7 years, I've gotten to know many of the 200 consultants that work with us, and it has been amazing to behold because these consultants like you not just told people what curriculum to use or what product to use and what grade, but your prayer partners and you answer questions about homeschooling and how to homeschool in high school and what do I do with a difficult child and what do I do with this child with special needs. I mean, you really are a jack of all trades when it comes to helping homeschool moms with different issues. And that really surprised me. So, Eujeana, if somebody wants to find a homeworks consultant, how do they do that?
They can go to our map. It's at homeschoolhelp.com/map and look for the blue dots in their state. Just click on the state and look for the blue dots. Now, if you can't find a consultant, then hit that contact button that's right underneath the map. That contact button will come straight to me, and then I'll connect you to a consultant. And let me know a little bit about what you're looking for and what you need, and I'll be able to research and see who's close to you in your area or who a good fit might be for you. So again, that's homeschoolhelp.com /map, and you can find a consultant there, or you can hit that contact button and that'll come to me. So
So, let's talk for just a minute about the BJU Press worldview component in the homeschooling curriculum and why you think that's so important.
having that worldview, okay, let me just back up to when we were looking at curriculum back in the day ourselves. I looked at 3 different math programs, and I remember sitting on the floor and having these 3 math programs, including VJU Press, on the floor, and I was looking through them. Math is math. It's getting numbers, it's just numbers, and, you're putting them together in the different sequences and coming up with answers, okay? So I thought, "How can these be any different?" Well, one was real colorful, but I didn't see it reviewing enough, and I love math, so I just kinda put that one aside. Then I started looking at the other 2, and I actually, used one of them in my own homeschool, and I didn't, or in my own schooling, excuse me, but the other one, the BJU Press, it was very colorful, but, what was it teaching? Well, when I looked at the one that I had used and I started looking at the story problems, what it was teaching was very secular. And then I looked at the story problems in the BJU Press, and I saw that biblical worldview jumping out at me. I was just amazed and thrilled. So that biblical worldview being within the problems and showing our children, I mean, I have seen through our parties, salvations come out of just our math program alone. Kids are getting saved and getting to know the Lord through that biblical world teaching within our curriculum, and I'm so grateful for that. But it's building that character and seeing the world through the lens of Scripture and seeing it through God's eyes and knowing how it should be.
Mm. And really, that is at the end of the day, we want our children to love the Lord.
Exactly.
We want them to understand the gifting God has given them, to have learned well, and to be able to take all those things into the world and cultivate the culture, the little patch of grass around them, make a difference in the world.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. So I'm very thankful for that biblical worldview shaping throughout the curriculum, not doesn't matter what subject, you're gonna get that biblical
That's
world
right.
shaping.
And the math is surprising. I can remember I was sitting in a seminar, and I can't remember exactly how it came up, but somebody used the example of in the math program, it teaches children how to use mathematics to serve their neighbor. And, that's a whole nother level. The BJU Press homeschool curriculum isn't reading a lesson and tacking a Bible verse onto it. Although I'm all about Bible verses, I don't mean that. But there's a real thoughtful approach into weaving a scriptural perspective in the academic courses themselves and then teaching our children how to apply that to the world around them, which I think is pretty amazing.
The logical and analytical and critical thinking that they're learning through the math and the other subjects as well is helping them to be able to think through the things that will hit them in their adult life, like buying a house. You got to have a little bit of math, but you got to have some logical thinking when you're reading all those contracts and trying to figure out what they actually say. And I've seen my kids time after time using that knowledge that they learned through using the BJU Press material in their adult lives. So I'm grateful for that.
So, if I know that you are in charge of the consultant program now, or you're in charge of training, and
Training.
if somebody wants to become a consultant with BJU Press, what do they need to do?
Well, what we're looking for is we're looking for those who have been immersed in our program using the materials for 3 years or more, first off. So a lot of people say, what are you looking for? We're looking for that. So if they've been using our materials and they know our materials and they can learn. And all of our consultants are in different stages of phases of life because some may just have littles, but they've got that 3 years experience, but they still may have young students. So they may not be up there in the high school years yet, and that's okay. They can learn and grow just like I did, through the years. Um, Learn and grow with the company and learn and know, the curriculum even better. So we're looking for that. We're looking for those that know the homeschool community. And if there's an interest in, seeking more information about becoming a consultant, I had written this down so that I can tell it right. If they will go to homeschoolhelp.com/become dash a dash consultant. That will take you to more information and an application to seek more information about the program. I'll repeat that. It's homeschoolhelp.com/become dash a dash consultant. And just kind of backing up a little bit, what I like to tell our consultants when I am training is we are there to equip, educate, and encourage those families in our homeschool community. And we are there year round uh, to support and help uh, the community. I've been in many, many homes over the years where I've been able to help families organize things, figure out, okay, they're road tripping. What can they take with them? What can they put in storage? I've done a lot of that. I heard from a consultant, Zan, just yesterday or the day before, and she actually had a Zoom meeting. I didn't have Zoom back in the day, but she had a Zoom meeting with a lot of the folks that she helps, and they were talking about the hub and how to, work through the hub and where to find things, and she had
And
them right there on
so
Zoom.
tell us what the hub is real
Okay,
quick,
the hub
because
is
this is
our
a
or
such a gift to homeschooling
yes,
parents.
and it's a free gift, no less.
Yes,
Uh,
a true
yeah.
gift.
But that is where, we have our materials organized, and they can get our lesson plans, and they can, have a calendar, and, if you purchase our video courses, that's where our video courses it's a portal that our video courses are uploaded to once they're purchased. But this hub is homeschoolhub.com. It is amazing. It's an amazing tool, that our consultants are educated in and experienced in and can help the homeschool families that just start with us to be able to know how to work those. So
And, oh, I love Eugene, I love your cuckoo clocks.
sorry,
No,
I
we
should
have to
turn that
stop
off.
for a minute and listen. When
It'll
we're do
stop
when
a minute.
when we're doing our Facebook parties in April and July, the cuckoo clock is our constant
I
companion, which
bought
I
that.
love.
I bought that because my grandmother had one, and I always loved it. So I wanted my grandkids to have access to see and hear the cuckoo clocks. So
That is so cool. So I was we one thing we really want to do at BJU Press Homeschool is help co-ops.
mhm.
And we're looking more and more into how can we help people who are leading co-ops. And one of the things is now there's a co-op component to the hub where
Yeah.
people can keep up with their students and all of that. So you can contact us as well if you want information on that. I love being part or working with a company that is always looking for ways to serve the homeschooling community and make homeschooling easier.
Exactly. That hub portal for the co-ops is amazing. I'm signing those up left, right, and sideways, and they're able to connect with their students that way. So it's pretty cool feature that they've added.
If you could tell homeschooling parents one thing from your years of experience as they go into a new homeschooling year, or share a Bible verse, or both, what would you tell them, Eugenia?
Well, as you know, my favorite book and chapter is Philippians 4. There's several verses within Philippians 4, but I'll lean on I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. Don't give up. There's going to be some tough times that'll come your way, and that's okay. Take a break from the academics and be in the moment with your child. Cherish every moment you have. They grow up so fast, so fast. Be thankful for the time that you have with them and zoom in or zone in on what their needs are. Because those life skills, like I said, are so important. Don't get so strapped by the academics are important and you need those, but it's okay to take a break and work on those life skills and the character building and just love on them and have cocoa on the couch and read a book. Um, don't get so strapped to a schedule that you are overwhelmed and you can't breathe anymore. I was there. I was there as a young homeschool mom. I wish I had a consultant who could have said, "It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to be so rigid." And I did lighten up as I began consulting and realizing, and I did have a wonderful mentor that helped me. Um, through the years. But again, she started about the same time period you did, Zan, and she was trying to do everything right so that if anybody came to her door, nothing was going to get um, looked at wrong. She was in the eras of the just starting um, time. So anyway, I would just say slow and steady and enjoy the moments. Cherish every moment you have. And I tell my kids the same thing.
Well, that is so special. Well, Eugenia, thank you so much for being with me here today, and being with all our friends who are listening and watching. It's just so good to hear your stories about life and homeschooling and how curriculum is there to help you is to be the tool and not the rule.
Mhm.
How the BJU Press Homeschool videos are a help, the
Um,
hub is a help, the consultants are a help. So we want you to know that we are there to help you. And Eujeana, tell us your contact information or the information they need to get in touch with
if
somebody.
if you need help getting in touch with a consultant or just knowing who to connect with, you are more than welcome to email me at echism, that's ECHISM, at homeschoolhelp.com, and I will be more than happy to connect you. It's echism at homeschoolhelp.com.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Eujeana. And I want to thank all of you for being with us today, listening. We know you have a lot of choices of what to do with your time. So thank you for being with us. And I just pray the Lord's continued blessing on you and your family and your homeschool as we get into a new school year. Bye.